Hey guys, welcome back to one of my videos. Today we're going to do my first replay analysis because a user named Vorchant has sent me a replay for me to analyze. If you would like me to analyze and give you feedback about your replays, just send them to professorprotoss@gmail.com and I'll take the time out of my hands to look it over, give you some tips, give your opponent some tips, and we'll just learn from there. So I'm going to go ahead and load this replay. I've already watched it once, but give me an idea of what's going on and watch it again with you guys. So Vorchant's playing against his friend. It's a Protoss versus Protoss matchup. Vorchant is Randir and his friend is West. So he's the white, his friend is brown. I'm going to put on ×2 speed because not much happening in the early stages of the game. First tip I can give for both players, it's just something you have to practice, but splitting your workers. When you send your workers to mine the minerals at the very beginning of the game, what you want to try to practice to do, and it takes time to learn, is while they're moving over, you get a few seconds to grab them and click to the other mineral patches as fast as possible. But it looks like neither of you split, so that's okay. It's not too important at the beginning. Okay? What we need to focus on as a new player is not getting supply stuck and building workers and building units. So I know I haven't gone over any build orders yet, but I noticed that you are sending your probe out at 7 when typically you send out at 8. So let me pause for a sec. The reason the Protoss sends the probe out at 8 typically is because exactly at 8, as you can see right now, let's check West. I don't know why his minerals are way less than yours. Oh, he built an extra probe. Typically at 8, if you split your probes, you'd have exactly 100 minerals, which is enough for a pylon. And when that pylon finishes, it'll finish just in time for you not to be supply blocked. And while you're building that pylon, you would send your first probe out to your opponent's base. And because it's a 2-player map, that makes things even easier. You can actually send your probe out even later if you want to. I personally send my probe out after my gas. But it's up to your own strategies and how you feel comfortable. But because it's a 2-player map, you know exactly where he is. It's not a very big map. So you could send him out right after the pylon. Let's get back into the game. So you're sending your first probe out. I'm not sure if you're scouting or if you're about to rush him. And by rush, I mean like build some gateways here maybe. Kind of looks like you're doing that. He built his first pylon. You're not building yours yet. So typically, guys, what we want to do is hotkey our nexus to 0. Or if you changed your hotkey for probe, you can hotkey it to anything else. Hotkey your probe to 1. You don't even really need to look at your probe too much. Usually what you do is you build your pylon here, and then you send your probe down here just by right clicking at their base, because you know their base is here. Like for example, all I have to do is click here. I know my probe's going to go in the right direction. And then you build more probes. So right now you're supply blocked. It looks like you're getting your first supply pylon down. You're getting a second one. That's good. I mean, normally you'd want to build a gateway, but if it prevents you from being supply blocked and you're spending your money, then it's fine by me. So West already has his forge and 2 pylons. Looks like yours is building now, and you made 2 pylons as well. So you're at 10. He's at 11. So if this was someone who built their pylon at 8 and was building the probes the whole time, I'd imagine they'd be probably around 15 probes by now. So your first tip, if you're not rushing them, build your pylon here, and then send out your probe to scout. So neither of you have scouted each other yet. I haven't talked about that much yet, so I don't blame you guys. Not too big a deal. Just want to make probes and spend your money. So, okay, good. You're making probes. It looks like you're going to build some cannons here. This actually might work on this map. This is a good choke point to block off from him coming at your base. Usually if I do this and I build cannons here, I would take another base. This one here. Because he'll have a hard time breaking through this containment field and getting all the way to this base. So you can take it safely. Just a tip as a strategy. And west, you built 3 cannons, but you didn't see what your opponent is doing. So if you want to be very, very safe, this is okay. But usually what you want to do, if you want to save this money, because this could be 3 gateways, is take this probe and have him scout your opponent's base. If you sent this probe out, you would see that Vorchant isn't building anything that can threaten you, and you could have skipped these cannons entirely. And then you can build more gateways. And same goes for you, Vorchant. You built 3 cannons, but you haven't even looked at what your opponent is doing. So if you remember back in my second video when we talk about multitasking and hotkeys, typically just hotkey this guy to 1, send him down here. Even while this is building, 3 is probably enough, you know? You want to see what he's doing first, and then you can just back off and build more if you need to. So let's go back and look at your probes. It's good. You have a good, a lot of players who start the game for the first time and are kind of new. Not for the first time, but just kind of like new players. You know, they'll build maybe like 8 to 10 probes are here, and you're building a lot, and that's good. So I noticed that you probably watched my first 2 videos because this is good to have a lot of probes like this. And I'm glad that you didn't take a gas yet, because you haven't built the tech that you need for a gas, and you're keeping your money low. Your probe's building and you're not supply blocked, so that's good. Good so far. West is mining gas. He's building a cybernetics core and he's building 2 gateways. He's keeping his money relatively low as well, which is good. And he's keeping himself not supply blocked. But he stopped building probe production. And you're still building probes, so that's good. If we take a look at right now the supply, it's 29 versus 22. So just by building probes and a couple zealots, you're already ahead. You're pretty far ahead, to be honest. Like, it doesn't look like it because you have maybe 2 zealots and a couple cannons, and he's building a few zealots and he has a couple cannons. But if we just look at the supply count and the fact that he's not building probes, he's at 26. You're at 33. In a mirror matchup, that's a big deal. You know, just building probes nonstop and building units nonstop is a big deal. It adds up fast, especially in Protoss versus Protoss. So he's got 2 gateways. He's got a cybernetics core. He's building dragoons. Dragoons are very good in this matchup. You know, you probably want to get dragoon range around this time, but it's all right. Upgrading armor. Typically, you upgrade weapons first. You know, taking 1 less damage is not as effective as dealing 4 to 6 more damage. That's the reason why people usually go weapons first. It costs the same as the armor as well. So we're at 40 supply. He's at 32. Still not building probes. So West, you need to practice building more probes. And not having 3 guys queued up in your gateway. And let's check on yours, Vorchant. No, you only have 1. That's good. And you're keeping your money low. I like it. But the reason I say don't have 3 guys queued up, I mean, you don't even really want 2 usually, but having 3 is really bad. And I'm not saying like you're bad for doing it, but if you just think about the game, it's just bad for your state of the game because you have extra money invested here that aren't even building. So if you have 2 extra dragoons here that aren't building, that could be money you spend on gateways to build extra dragoons. It's kind of just like putting money in the bank and not getting any interest for it. So I'm fine with 2. It's hard to go back and forth as a beginner, but 3 should not happen. If you build 3 units in a gateway, I'd recommend just cancel it. Cancel that guy right there and build another gateway. Okay, because if you're building 3, that means you don't have enough production facilities to build more units. Vorchant, you're doing a good job at keeping your money low, and building your units. I would probably take another base right around now, since your money's getting to around 400. And look, I noticed you still haven't scouted him yet, so that's something you do want to do. Just send... Oh, you did take another base. Took it down here. Alright. No, you're doing well. That's good. But you do want to scout your opponent. If you were to just send a probe in here, it's cheap. You have 1,000,000 of them. Just send one probe. Right-click over here. Follow it down, see what happens. Maybe even send a zealot. I mean, whatever. You just want to see what your opponent's doing. Let's go back to your base. I've been talking about him a lot. You stopped probe production. You got... Oh, see, you did the same thing. So, if you get to 3, I got a rule of 2 in my school. If you get to 3, cancel, and just build another gateway. And then you're getting pretty close on the pylons, so you want to make sure to build a pylon. When this nexus finishes, it might give you the supply you need. You can utilize your forge to upgrade as well. Here's another thing for West. Going shields, it's good, but it's more expensive than weapons. And again, weapons is more important because you deal more damage than shield can protect you. So taking 1 less damage on your shield is good, but dealing, 6 more damage as a zealot or 6 more damage as a dragoon. I don't know if it's 6, it might be 2. But dealing more damage is better than taking less damage. Okay, it's definitely not 6. It's 2. But dealing 2 more damage is better than taking 1 less damage, if you know what I mean. Alright, so I still like that your money's low. You haven't been supply boxed in a while. You should be transferring probes. Yes, you are. Good. But you need another gateway. Dragoon range. Perfect. I would recommend also hot keying your group here with control 1. And then once that gets full, control 2 for the next 12 units. West, you're taking another base. That's good. You have a lot of gas. You might want to consider teching to gas expensive units. For Protoss, that would mean High Templar. So go to Citadel and Templar Archives. It's good as newbies though, or sorry, not newbies, but like beginners, to just build the basic units because you don't have to think too much about it. But something to just keep in mind for your future and to get better at the game. When you have a lot of gas, you want to go to the next tech tree. When you have a lot of minerals, you want to build more gateways. Okay, so now you have a 3rd gateway. But you're getting into the 500s. And my rule of thumb is if you're in the 500s, it's either build 2 more gateways or take another base. But yeah, I mean, you're doing a pretty good job so far. Like, you're still building probes after your first nexus, which is good. You're still building probes after your second nexus. Like, imagine if he were to drop you right now some Reaver right here, or High Templar, and kill some of these probes. The fact that you have more building here is always good. Look how many probes you have. You can lose a ton of probes here, and you'd be fine. And, like, see his base here? He's only got 1, 2, 3, 4 units saturating these mineral patches. And maybe about 15, 16 here. Where you've got about 30 and another 18 and you're still building. That's always good. That definitely means that you're going to be in the lead. In fact, I haven't even looked recently, but you're at 96 supplies and your opponent's at 79. So it's making a difference, definitely. But yeah, he's building a pretty decent sized army off 2 gateways. If he had more workers, he could afford, and like these are totally unnecessary because he hasn't scouted yet. If he had more workers, he could build more gateways and then build more units. Alright, I see you're adding more gateways, that's good. Looks like you're ready to take another base, perfect. Now I don't have anything bad to say for your replay so far. I mean, you're doing exactly what I said to do. It was really the opening, but I have a video coming out pretty soon to talk about openings. I'll get into what build orders to do as a beginner, but as a beginning player, building workers and building the basic units is probably the best thing you can do to get better at this game. And you're doing just that. You're still building workers. I love it. You've got 5 gateways. You do have the money to build from here. If you're having trouble spending your money, hotkey 4, 5, and 6, and kind of just go 4D, 5D, 6D. That would just make it sure that even if you're doing something down here, or doing something over here, if you just glimpse at your money and save a lot, you can just go 4D, 5D, 6D. That would build you 3 dragoons, or 4Z, 5Z, 6Z. That would build you 3 zealots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, look at that. You're building all 5. Perfect. West still has 2 gateways. Okay. So the thing about cannons in Protoss versus Protoss that we should talk about is the cannon costs 150 minerals. Right? So rather than putting down defenses, unless your unless your opponent is very aggressive, and you'll know if they're aggressive because you'll constantly have to be dealing with them in your face, which he's never seen you once yet. You don't need these. These could be gateways. Like this could be 1, 2, 3, 4 more gateways. 1, 2, 3, 4 more dragoons. All right. So he needs not to build too many cannons here, unless you see your opponent doing something that causes you to fear that. But what West is doing good is upgrading and teching, which might be something you want to implement into your game, Vorchant. So it looks like you're getting the macro part down. You got a lot of probes idle here. You got to check on that every once in a while. This guy too. You have this gas build for a while. You need to make sure to mine out of that. Otherwise, it's just wasted money. But what I would implement into your game as the next step, and maybe you'll watch my next video about build orders, but what I would implement is more tech units, higher tech. You're still on tier 1 units. So there's different tiers in the game, but tier 1 is like the basic units, Zealot and Dragoon. Tier 2 maybe would be like Reavers or Dark Templars or High Templars. Tier 3 would be Carriers. Corsairs, I'm not sure why you're building those. Alright. Pause this for a second. So I'm going to talk about this in an even later video, but we need to go over engagement. So because he's never scouted you, and I like this wall, by the way. This is really good. But because he's never scouted you, he has no idea what he's walking into. So if I was West and I was sending my units out, if I saw this arc and these cannons, and I'm walking in a straight line like this, I personally know that he's dead. Like, all these units are screwed. But if this happens to you, run into something like this, it's not the end of the world. Just grab everything and send it over here. Because if you lose this army right now, you lose the game for sure. That's the bad thing about StarCraft, is like one bad engagement could cost you the entire game, you know? And this is a bad engagement. You never want to walk in a straight line like this. What I usually do is when I hotkey my my armies, so like say I'll hotkey these to control 1 and these to control 2, is I would send them, I would see that and I would go 1, click over here, 2, click over here, and they'll make an arc by running this way, and then I can come up at a different angle where they come up like in a circle like this, a half circle, and attack. But even then I wouldn't even fight this, like he can't beat that army. You have a few units chilling here doing nothing, but it's alright, you win the game pretty much right here. So 2 gateways, he should build more, he's got a lot of money to spend. You know, Vorchant, I feel like you're playing pretty well. You know, you're spending your money. I'm not sure if you're using hotkeys. Usually, I don't know if I can check by clicking them. No, some replays you can. But you're spending your money. Boom, 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 boom. And you're not getting supply blocked. And you're making tier 1 units, which is good for learning. Yeah. So a couple other things I forgot to mention earlier. When you took your second expansion, you took it here in the middle of the map. It's not as safe as taking this one, for example, or this one. But because you have this cannon wall, it was okay. But I would usually take this one first. Very early on. You can get away with like right after your first gateway, to be honest. But this is a very safe base, easy to protect because your gateways are right here. You can just rally them right here. And this one is much more difficult to protect if he were to rush you or do some early aggression. And losing a second base is very detrimental. But it worked out for you because you had this cannon wall. The other thing I would work on is your opening. Scout. Try to look at his base more. Try not to build too many defenses, even here. If you don't need to, because the first thing he did was build cannons. And just knowing that cannons can't move, you know that he can't attack you. You're free to do whatever you want. So that's just a good thing to keep in mind. And right now, I mean, you could just go in for the kill. Like normally when you kill a big army without losing much, you just win. You know, you could just attack move his base and not even look, and you would win. And west, just another tip, scouts. We didn't talk about units very much in any of my videos, but scouts are very bad. They just cost a lot of money, take forever to build, and do almost no damage to ground, 8 damage. I mean, they might be a counter to carriers, but most people don't really make carriers, so scouts are just not very good units. So I saw you scouted him with your Corsairs. That's good. So yeah, I mean, this game's pretty much over. What you want to work on, get your tech a little earlier, if you can. Make High Templars, use Psystorm. It's one of the best, probably the best spell in the game, arguably. And try to take expansions closer to your base. Try to make more gateways rather than more cannons. Cannons should be a reactionary defense. Or if your scouting probe is killed early without you seeing, you might make some scared cannon defense. But if you just scout and see they're not doing anything, there's no reason to make cannons. And here, I know you win the game, but just as a side note, like, you're going to lose all your probes. You should have sent... Oh, okay, you're sending the dragons back. What you can do, though, is also, like, grab all your probes and send them to, like, this mineral field. And then it's okay if you lose mining time because it's better than losing, like, 8 probes. But yeah, this replay is over. I mean, all in all, I think you did very well. I would like if you, try out different build orders after my next video. I'll show you a few things you could try. But good job, Vorchant, and thanks for submitting the replay. If anybody else would like their replay submitted and analyzed, just send it to professorprotoss@gmail.com, and I'll try to get up a video as quick as I can. Until then, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys, and please subscribe to my videos. Thank you. Oh, gotta close this.